This is podcast number 2, October the 11th, coming at you from BHS. This is a BHS podcast. We have a special guest with us today, Mr. Mike Whitten, the principal at Boonville High School, and also my co-host, Mr. Chapman.
How you doing? Welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me.
It was nice for him to come on. We have a couple questions for him. Let's just start out with kind of give us your background on where you came from and how you ended up at BHS.
Born in Evansville, lived in a little town called Francisco in Gibson County. Moved to the big metropolis of Oakland City and grew up there. Graduated at Wood Memorial Trojan, class of 1982. And then went to Oakland City University for my undergraduate. Got a degree in PE and health and math. Started teaching, was real lucky. Got a teaching job right out of college at Pike Central. While I was there, I worked on my master's degree at University of Southern Indiana. It was Indiana State University of Evansville back in that day. And got that degree right toward the end of my tenure at Pike Central. I worked on my principal's license from Indiana State. Got that. Was fortunate enough to get a job at Boonville Junior High back in the day as the assistant principal. Was there for 5 years. Was given the opportunity to go to Tecumseh for a year and was the principal there for 1 year. And then during that year, there was a lot of shuffling. There were like 5 administrative positions. Guys resigned and retired and whatever. And so there was a big shuffle. And the position here at Boonville opened up. And I was asked to come down here. And that was 15 years ago. And in the meantime, I've completed my EDS, and I'm going to find out next week if I get admitted to a doctoral program. I'm going to work on my doctorate. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
So you moved right into the big chair here at Boonville High School. You came in as the principal here?
Yeah, I've been the principal at Tecumseh for 1 year prior to that, and then 5 years at Boonville Junior High. So this is my 21st year in administration, 15th year here, and 32nd year in education.
Wow.
Yeah. Old guy.
So in those 15 years, we kind of have a sports bend here.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of success in your 15 years.
Yeah.
Kind of what are the things that maybe you're most proud of from an athletic standpoint that we've done? I know we had some volleyball and softball success. And
Yeah. One of the things I learned real quickly was that the sports tradition in Boonville, going way back to football and all the other stuff that's, started out back before girls sports were even around. And then when girls sports came in, we were real fortunate to have the four Winsett girls. And that was when girls sports came in, and they were in school, and they were really successful along with a lot of other female athletes. And so, the tradition started very quickly with all of that. But since I've been here, 2003, probably, our girls' softball team won a state championship and was really excited about that. And with my involvement with the IHSA, I got to hang the medals on all the kids and the coaches, and so that was really cool. Special. And I can still remember looking Mike Wilson in the face, and I'm gonna get emotional right now. Both of us kind of tearing up about it. It was really cool. But then the 2 years that my daughter played volleyball and we finished state runner-up both those years, that was real special to see my own daughter out there doing that stuff.
So you have one blue ring?
One blue ring from here. Got one blue ring from Tecumseh. The 1 year that I was up there, the boys won the baseball state championship, and the girls finished runner-up in softball.
Wow.
Same year. So overall, I guess I've got 2 blue rings and four red ones.
Do you keep the red rings?
I do. I've got them all there in my office, and I don't look at the rings so much, but I keep pictures in there and go back and look at the kids and think about things from time to time. And
do you ever wear the blue rings?
No, I don't put them on. I just leave them around for talking points, I guess.
You guys listening aren't aware, for IHSA state championships, blue ring is first place and red ring is second place.
Yeah. That's a great tradition that I don't know how long that's been going on, but it's something that's really neat for the kids in the community to be able to do. We have had an academic state champion. Matter of fact, that was technically, I guess, that was the first team state champion that we had here. Was
Did you get a ring for that?
I did not get one, but we made sure that the team members and the coaches did. Got a blue ring for that. We treated them just like we would an athletic team, and got them a state championship ring, and we've had a couple since then. So, yeah, we've had some real nice success over the last 15 years, and proud to say that I either helped with it in some way or was smart enough to stay out of the way and let everybody else do their jobs. But it's been fun.
You mentioned your current involvement with the IHSAA. You've been on their board of directors?
Yeah, the executive committee meets once a month, and I'm a part of that. And then the board of directors meets annually. And our responsibility is mainly to set policy and oversee the business aspect of the association. And again, kind of getting older. I'm the oldest serving member on the board of directors right now. I'm in my 5th term. Those are 3-year terms, and so I've got a couple more years to go with that. And,
is there a term limit, or can you keep going?
You can keep going. The longest one in the history of the IHSAA is 8 terms. There was a gal named Janice Quiliza from up around Merrillville.
You're knocking on the door a little bit.
A little bit.
You better look out.
Bit. Well, I don't know if I've got that many more terms in me, but it's a great opportunity. It's a great professional organization, and I know a lot of people probably look at the IHSAA and think it's a bunch of old guys in suits and ties and stuffy, and it's not. I mean, we really care about kids and what's going on. The biggest thing that I've seen change in the 13 years now that I've been on the board is that the legislature is getting so involved with stuff, with concussions and even the transfer cases that we have to deal with, the heat acclimatization and a lot of things like that. There's a lot of stuff that's been legislated now, and it'd be nice to think that they let professionals kind of do their jobs, but somebody's got a political axe to grind, and they want to try to get their name onto some bill, and it affects everybody. But,
and I bet being on that board, there's some headaches, and driving back and forth from Indy for meetings.
Yeah. The drive, with I-69 now, the drive's helped out tremendously. But for several years there, I was driving over to 41 up to Terre Haute and found a little back road there to get over onto 70, and that was the easiest way to get in. But it's a commitment,
Yeah.
to have
But would
to do
the
that.
good side be that get to present medals at state tournaments and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I don't know that I'd say that that's the top thing that's been the most beneficial. Really, the collegiality of it. I'm sitting around the room with 18 other guys from all over and gals from all over the state, and we're all dealing with the same issues, and you just get a chance to talk with each other, to network. I've got an email distribution list, and I can send out an email, and I know in 24 hours I'm going to have 18 responses. We all respond to each other's emails and questions just to try to help each other out. So that's been the single best thing. And then handing out the medals and awards and stuff is pretty cool. It's kind of neat to come back here and somebody says, "Hey, I saw you on TV," or whatever, to hang medals or present the Mental Attitude Award. And I've said forever that the student athletes in the state of Indiana have, from what I have been able to see from around the country, because we get to go to some national conferences over the summer, our student athletes get to perform at the state finals in the best venues in the country.
Yes.
Hands down, the best venues in the country. Football's at Lucas Oil, where the Colts play.
Right.
Baseball is where the Indianapolis Indians play at Victory Field. Boys and girls basketball and wrestling compete at Bankers Life, where the Pacers and the Fever play.
Right.
The natatorium.
Swimming, the
the
natatorium, that's an Olympic venue.
Yep.
Cross country runs in Terre Haute, where they host NCAA national finals. This year we just made a change. Softball this year is going to have their state finals at Purdue, which is going to be a little bit further drive, but the venue there is just second to none. It's one of the newest college venues in the country right now, and so our high school kids are going to get to compete there.
Do you ever have any involvement with? I mean, there's some IHSA sports that we don't do, right? You ever do gymnastics or
I do.
anything like that?
I do. I go to Ball State. There's only about 85 or 90 schools in the state that have gymnastics, and really the only one south of Indianapolis is over around New Albany and Jeffersonville.
Oh, wow.
There's nothing in the southwest part of the state. But I do gymnastics on occasion, and
Are there any other IHSA sports that we don't have?
there's nothing sanctioned
Okay.
other than the 21 if you count unified track. The 22 that we offer, the IHSA offers, we have 21 of those 22. So our kids are getting just about everything that's out there. Gymnastics is such an expensive event because of the
Yes.
equipment and the liability and all the things that go with it. And plus, if if we're the only school around here that's got it, we'd have to drive 3 hours
Our
just to
travel
find somebody
bills
to
would
compete
be-
with. Yeah. So we do everything that's out there. Now, that being said, there are some other sports that we're looking into. We've got a proposal from the Bowling Coaches Association, and they want to see if the IHSA would want to sponsor bowling.
And that's been coming for a little while, hadn't it? It's getting
Has
bigger.
been. Archery is out there, which is more of an activity. I don't want to offend any archers, but it's more of an considered nationally. It's considered an activity instead of an athletic event.
We have a lot of archers here at
We
at
do.
Boonville High School, though.
We
don't
do, and I think it'd be a great thing to pick up. We would have to change some bylaws, though. The IHSA was governed more as an athletic association, and like I said, I'm not being mean to the archers, but it's considered an activity.
Is lacrosse in there at all?
Lacrosse, we've had some proposals from those people, from those groups in the past. Men's or boys volleyball is another one that's kind of gaining some
It's
momentum.
big in Ohio.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, men's volleyball.
Well, and even in northern Indiana, there's several
Is it?
teams there that are trying to make a proposal. The
What
one
about
thing
cornhole? Is that cornhole?
Cornhole?
Are you looking at that?
you know what? It could sometime down the road, and you kind of laugh about that, but just across the river in Kentucky, bass fishing is a state
Yes.
sanctioned.
Really?
Bass fishing is a state sanctioned sport. They have state champions in bass fishing.
We would have too, but Shimano's already graduated.
True.
Yeah, they were good.
They just had it on ESPN. It was the College World Series of bass fishing.
You mentioned
Two-person team.
you mentioned college sports, but I think the NCAA sponsors like 90 different sporting national
Yes.
champions. It's 90.
You ever been to
That's
that
crazy.
Hall of Champions they have there in
Yeah.
Indianapolis?
Yes.
You walk around and there's alpine skiing and there's stuff you had no idea
Yeah.
that they had. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is. It's really neat. But there are other proposals out there. The one thing that keeps being a drawback for those other groups, though, and I don't see this changing, I don't see this ever changing, is that an IHSA bylaws that you cannot have contact with your athletes on Sunday. And lacrosse and archery and bowling and volleyball and all those others, they want to compete on Friday, Saturday, Sunday tournaments.
Right.
And if they become an IHSA sport, they cannot have contact on Sunday. And so the leaders of those groups really don't want to relinquish the authority and the control over stuff like that to the IHSA.
Because then you'd have to move. You need to keep the 3 days. You'd move.
Yeah.
Kids would miss too much school.
Yeah,
If you have to start
you'd start
Thursday,
missing a lot
Friday,
of school.
Saturday.
There are some other restrictions on there too. You can only travel 300 miles outside the border, and we've got some groups that are traveling to Florida to play somebody. Also, you'd have to have the grade and attendance stuff comes into play. All of our student athletes have to be passing 5 of the 7 classes. To play club ball, you can be failing every class you've got and still compete. So there are things like that would change, and some groups really don't want to do that, but others are interested in it.
And you think the Sunday contact rule, that's probably never going to
That
change?
is never going to go away. Never going to go away, because as soon as you relinquish that, I don't think any of our coaches would do this, but there are coaches around the state who would practice kids 7 days a week. I mean, they just wouldn't let up. And I just don't ever see that change.
I know it's happening in places, and they call it optional on Sunday night.
Oh,
Not in
yeah.
this area, but other places around the state.
Right. And we were talking before we started the podcast that, our area is a little bit different as far as transfers and some things like that go. I don't think there's a lot of coaches in Southwest Indiana that try to abuse those rules. I think they like to have their Sundays off and time with their families and things like that. But you're right. There are places around the state where I'm sure they're just,
There's still places down here. Jasper still has a Wednesday evening restriction.
yeah.
No activity after 5.
Right. Yeah. If there are local things like that, then absolutely those can kick in and would trump or supersede what the IHSA's rules are.
The travel, you kind of talked about traveling to Florida earlier
Mhm.
to play sports and everything. Have you seen that gain any steam since you kind of started being with the IHSAA,
Well,
or problems with it whenever it's travel outside of the regular high school sport?
yeah, I keep it in the context of going back 13 years ago when I just started. 13 years ago, ESPN was not broadcasting high school football games.
Right.
ESPN was not broadcasting high school basketball games.
Right.
And they are now. And the sad part about that is that it's money driven. If ESPN wasn't making money off of high school football games, do you think they'd be broadcasting it? Nope. They're making money off of it, and they're making money at the expense of high school athletes. I mean, you talk about all the revenue that comes in for college athletics because of TV deals. Now it's coming down to the high schools, and it's just it has changed. I'm hoping it's kind of plateaued and leveled off, but even in our area, we have groups that will travel a good distance. I thought our boys soccer team played a fantastic game against Memorial in the sectional. I have thought our boys soccer team this year was one of the best ones we've had in quite a while, and they did a great job of holding Memorial 2-0. Gave up 1 goal with 5 minutes to go, and that's because we've been playing defense for 75 minutes. They were just that good. But you go back and look at Evansville Memorial's schedule. Half of their schedule is against teams outside the state. They travel to St. Louis. They'll travel to Cincinnati. And it's within that 300-mile radius or barrier of the state line. And they're not violating the rules, but they're going out and handpicking the best teams to play,
Right.
so that they get into the tournament. And they're,
Do other state athletic associations have a similar travel rule to us?
Some do and some don't. I think that's why you see the stuff on ESPN.
Right.
I don't watch those games just as a personal statement that I'm not going to support something like that, because I don't want them to think that there's a whole lot of people wanting to watch high school sports on national television.
Right, but you could have a football team from Florida and a football team from California playing each other.
Yeah, well, and a lot of what I see just flipping through the channels is Texas and Florida.
Yeah.
Now that means those kids are getting on a plane and flying across the Gulf to go play somebody.
They even do in Dallas. They host. I saw it last year. They host kind of a tournament of champions where they take state champions from 8 different states and they go to Dallas and play.
Yeah, and it's money driven.
Yep.
It just absolutely is. We just saw the stuff that happened with University of Louisville's basketball program and Adidas and all that stuff. That's real. That is absolutely. They didn't make that stuff up. And there are athletes out there that are good enough, and there are people that have been doing it long enough, and they can flash dollars and big checks at kids, and some of those kids come from really tough situations, and you give a kid the example that I read in one of the stories that I had looked at. They gave a kid $10,000, and this kid said, "I'll go to Louisville and I'll be an Adidas guy when I go professional." So Adidas gave that kid $10,000 to get him hooked on that thing, and this kid goes pro. Okay, so they paid for his college. He got a scholarship and got all that taken care of. He goes pro and signs a shoe contract. They're going to make $10 million off of that kid.
Right.
And they gave him $10,000.
Because his family needed the money?
Needed the money, yeah.
It's not always if you need the money. $10,000 to a high school kid that doesn't. I mean, most kids don't have $10,000 just in their pocket, so $10,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I would say 99% of the high school seniors.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of are you willing to sell yourself?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. Because man, when you get in college, they own your hind end. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have a Sunday rule there. You can practice on Sunday. The only thing they've got is hours of contact. You can only have contact with an athlete for so many hours.
Some of that they get around by making
yeah.
things mandatory or optional.
Optional,
Yeah.
but you better be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And football's a little bit different because you can't play back to back. So you kind of have to wait a week, play the next game. But basketball this summer, they have all these famous ex-NBA players that are coaching the teams now for summer leagues.
Yeah, look at all the stuff out in Las Vegas. They have, I mean, all over the country. Those teams come in and do that stuff.
We should go there next year. Do the podcast from Vegas.
I'm okay with that.
Hey,
We can even
with
get the
us.
school to sponsor it.
if you need a guest speaker, I'm in.
There you go. Well, we could, talk about this stuff all day, but I know we're in a busy time here. But we'll get you out of here with this. You've been principal of Boonville High School 15 years.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of being the principal of Boonville High School? What's the best part of the
man.
job?
The easy answer is to say the kids. But I guess as I'm getting older, I'm changing just a little bit. And the favorite part for me is now watching the teachers interact with the kids. There's only in the 15 years I've been here, of the 62 certified staff that we have, there's only 11 of them that I haven't hired. Yeah, so I've hired 51 of the 62 in the 15 years I've been here, and I just feel like those people are my family. I'm old enough now; they're my kids, and just watching the teachers who I hired get to interact with kids. That I think the needs are greater now for our kids than they've ever been, and I don't see that changing. The amount of pressure that's on teachers now, but also the greater amount of influence they can have on kids. It's really something. A lot of our kids have tough home situations, and the 7.5 or 8 hours that we have them here is the best part of their day. I read something over the summer about getting ready to come back to school, and this article said, teachers, keep in mind that there are some kids who have been waiting all summer long to get in your class. And that to me is what is the most fun part. That's what I look forward to the most. I love athletics. I grew up playing. I actually played 4 sports in high school, and from Little Big Wood Memorial, we just had to play a little bit of everything. But I look back on that as a great thing. I learned a lot of stuff about a lot of different things. I love seeing our kids be successful in the classroom and on the ball fields or on the ball courts, and getting to advance through the tournament. That's kind of neat to see everybody rally around the kids and the coaches and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, just to have kids graduate, get out of here and go on and do great things, come back into this community and contribute and give back a little bit. That's been the other neat thing about hiring people, is I've hired a lot of Boonville High School graduates, and with the exception of Mr. Snyder. But at any rate,
I kind of snuck in. It's okay.
yeah, that's all right.
Under the radar.
We're still looking for his official transcript.
That's right.
We're not sure if how that played out, but seeing those people get to come back and pay it forward a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. You were my assistant. You were the assistant principal at Boonville Junior High while I was there.
I vaguely remember that.
You guys go way back.
There's one more story. He was I've only been sent to the office maybe once or twice. I wasn't really a troublemaker, but the first time I got sent to the office, he was the assistant principal, and I can remember him just looking us in the eye, and I was just quivering. He probably doesn't remember that because I bet he's seen a lot of students since then, but I could remember the exact moment. I could tell you who was in there with us, but that's the things you remember on the other side of the coin.
I'm glad I made a positive impression on you.
You still remember that?
I do.
That's incredible.
I do. I can even tell you the story right now. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we did it was in language arts class. We were making a poster, and Ryan Vollman and I, we cut out pictures, but we did a little risque pictures, and at that time it was really risque. So girls in swimsuits, and one of us cut out a picture of a girl, the bottom half of a girl, so the bikini bottom, and then the other guy did the bikini top. We get in there, and you hold up the poster, and you say, "So what are you, a leg or a breast man?" And then you said, I don't want to see this anymore ever again. And you sent us back to class.
It was short and sweet.
Oh, yeah. And that was enough. That's all we needed to hear.
And so what's he do now? He's a swim coach.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, man.
Well, guys, thanks for having me. I
Yeah.
love this. I love, and for those of you who are listening and don't know, this was Mr. Chapman and Mr. Snyder's idea to do this, and they ran it by me, and I thought it was a great idea. Love new things coming up. You know, sometimes people say that the only inevitables in life are death, change, and taxes, and these guys are willing to change some things and do something different outside the box, and I really appreciate them and what they're doing with this, and I hope this thing continues to grow and you know, just takes off and does really cool things. So, you know, the only thing I would say is that this is a kind of a radio podcast thing and not a TV cast, because they're like me. You know, I've always been told I've got a face for radio, so they're right there with me. But guys, I appreciate what you're doing, and hope this really takes off.
Thanks, Mr. Whitten.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you. So great to have Mr. Whitten here. Has to be neat for you, Mr. Snyder. Kind of, you've known him a long time, and as a student and now as a teacher. So that was fun.
Yes, I think he's excellent. I mean, he really helps you out in the school. Anytime you have a problem, he gets it solved quick. Anything as far as being an employee under him, you can't ask anything more, really.
And he mentioned this with coaches. One of the things I really like is I think he really knows when to step back and let you do your job.
Correct. I agree. And he is a big believer, if there's no problems and you're helping out the kids, then you can't do much more. He doesn't look at wins. He doesn't look at losses. As long as you're helping out the students and the athletes, that's what he wants to see.
Yeah. So we'll just wrap it up now. You know, next week we're going to try to speak to Luke Connor from the football team. We talked about how last week in the game against South Spencer,
Yes.
he had 31 carries, had something like 170 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and then he had, I believe, a 96-yard interception return for a touchdown. So scored 3 touchdowns in the game, 2 on offense, 1 on defense, and carried the ball 31 times on offense.
He is definitely one of the best players on the team and has to be tired after that game.
Workmanlike right there, 31 carries. So we're going to try to get him in here next week and look to sectional. We've got our last regular season game against Mount Carmel this weekend out at the Snake Pit. Anybody listening, you haven't been to the Snake Pit before, great venue. You ever been to Snake Pit,
I
Coach?
have not been to the Snake Pit.
Mount Carmel. You can go to Taco Tierra before or after the game and then walk on over to the Snake Pit, and it goes so high. They call it the Snake Pit, you know, because it's high and steep, and at the top of the Snake Pit, you're actually sitting above the lights.
Really?
Yeah. It's a pretty cool place. If you've never been and you're looking for something to do Friday night, Mount Carmel, Illinois, Snake Pit.
And then who do we play in the sectional? Bossy, first game.
Bossy first round, and then the most likely Harrison if we win in the second round.
Right. Your old stomping ground, Bossy.
Yeah, should be fun. And then if we win, we'll host the second round. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Right. That is nice to be home for the second round.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening again. This is Mr. Chapman.
And Mr. Snyder.
And we'll see you next week.